What's up? Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the District of Sechelt regular council meeting of Wednesday, August 4th. It is 7 p.m. and I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Sechelt Nation. So we have an agenda in front of us. Are there any conflict of interest that anyone would like to declare? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And we have a delegation. It's Alan Williams he's the president of TRAC, Transportation Choices. Alan, over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if I can get the presentation sharing here.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Chair, and good evening. Thank you all for the opportunity to present. Really appreciate that. As mentioned, my name is Alan Williams. I'm a director of TRAC. So for those of you unfamiliar with TRAC, we're an active transportation advocacy group on the Lower Sunshine Coast. So think bikes, buses, pedestrians, and complaining about bike infrastructure. We work with local community groups, governments, businesses, and try and improve our active transportation culture and infrastructure. We're a nonprofit. We incorporated in 2012. We have an active board and about 130 members. So to give you a quick sense of the kinds of things we do, along with quite a few other groups, including the District of Sechelt, we participate in the Active School for Kids Committee. We're a member of the SERD Transportation Advisory Committee. We've worked with the town of Gibsons and trailblazed Helen's Way, which is a bikeable route adjacent to Ingalls Trail from Lower to Upper Gibsons. We've worked with Modi, SERD, Town of Gibsons, District of Sechelt to have the Sunshine Coast bike route designated on our highway. We've worked with Vancouver Coastal Health and SD46 to create the Endeavor to Ride program, where we bought a bike library for students at SD46 Endeavor program. So that's not really what I'm here to talk about, but I wanted to give you a sense of what we're all about. So we've been delivering bike to work week since 2011. And in 2019, we shifted the program to encourage all forms of alternative transportation, including biking, walking, transit, carpooling, e-bikes, scooters, whatever way you can get out of a single occupancy vehicle. And we also broadened it to encourage different types of journeys, including errands and appointments and leisure and exercise. And in normal times, it would be a month-long event in May. And this year, we're planning 2 weeks starting in late September. So the event is 2 weeks this time around to promote and participate and celebrate our sustainable transportation on the Sunshine Coast. We've hired Naomi Fleshut to coordinate the event, and you can reach her at the contact information here, which I'll send to you after the presentation. To deliver the program and to encourage a cultural shift, we're encouraging businesses and individuals and local governments to become part of the event. So we've started our planning process and we've committed to the following events: Bike to School and Bike to Work Week, a scavenger hunt by bike, Sufferfest, which is a race up school road, e-bike meetups, a group ride to Bonnybook, bike polo, and a whole series of other events. The District of Sechelt financially supports Active Transportation Weeks via your community investment program, so thank you very much. And Sechelt has been a vital part of Active Transportation event in the past, coordinating and participating in the following events. So an Active Transportation Month kickoff event, there were celebration stations, the Boulevard for Walking, e-bike tour of Sechelt, there was the Mayor Bike Off, and storyboard maps in the past. So as in previous years, we're hoping the District of Sechelt and staff can officially participate in Active Transportation Weeks and organize events. We're also hoping that you can help us promote Active Transportation Week through your communication channels And finally, we're hoping that council and staff can be involved as leaders, encouraging others to use active modes of travel. If you want more information, you can reach Naomi or myself at active@activetransportations.ca or our website. Yeah, and that's the end. So any questions?
All right, council, any questions or comments? All right, I think we will look at what we can come up with to take part. I know Mayor Beamish and I have been talking. We'll see what we can make happen this year. And I know that our staff will always be involved. And it's good to know the dates and the times.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for taking on the leadership role in this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for your partaking in it as well.
All right.
It's much appreciated. Okay.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Alan. Okay.
Thanks all.
You bet. Bye-bye. All right, we'll move on to item 5.1, minutes of the, let me get to it, minutes of the 7 p.m. regular council meeting of July 21st. And this is for adoption. Any errors or omissions in these minutes before we look at adopting? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Item 5.2, minutes of the 3:30 p.m. regular council meeting of July 28th for adoption. And I just look for a motion to adopt. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? I think there is one item that I think we know about and has been communicated to the community, but that was about the non-potable water station. We talked about it in the council meeting and staff went away and then, managed to get that up and running, and it has been communicated to the community. Anything further? All right, seeing nothing, moving on to item 7.1. Committee of the whole meeting minutes of July 28th. These are for receipt and endorsement. Again, first of all, any errors or omissions in these minutes? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt receipt and endorsement. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. All right, moving on. Business items, number 10.1. This is the Sunshine Coast Community Forest Legacy Fund recommendations. And we have the chair of the Legacy Fund Committee from the Community Forest, Elise Redland with us, and the chair of the board, Kathleen Sudis. So, council, what would you like to do with the recommendations? First of all, any questions on any of them? Councilor McLean.
Yeah, just a general question. I'd like to know more about how much interest there was in this year's applications. Were there a lot more groups than what we're seeing and some tough decisions having to be made, or was this essentially the list?
Elise? I think.
We had 3 other applications that came through under our letter of interest, and they did not make the final grouping. So I would say there wasn't a strong group numbers of applications this year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, Councilor McLean?
Well, to respond to that, I believe that these projects are very strong. So I want to thank the Community Forest Granting Committee for putting this list together, because I'm in full support of all of these projects.
Good. And maybe in the future, we did get some feedback that the board wanted to know the applications that were rejected. And I'm sorry to say that I don't know if Sarah sent that off to you. We did have a discussion at our meeting to say that the board the Community Forest Board should let the District of Seashelt board know which ones were refused and for what reasons. So I think in the future, we'll try and make that a standard practice. So you don't have to keep asking that kind of questions, and you'll get yeah.
All right.
Picture.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Would someone like to make a recommendation? Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I will move that we accept and endorse the recommendations from the Community Forest Legacy Fund Grant Committee. I don't see a District of Seashelt cover page on it, so I hope that's sufficient. I just wanted to note that I did total it up, and it was $97,000 is the total ask this year. So,
all right. Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded. All right. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Elise and Kathleen.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have a little bit of an event to distribute the funds.
Yes, we'll watch for those.
Yeah, I know that some of them are time sensitive, so.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, item 10.2. This is the development permit for 5845 Sunshine Coast Highway for the Strand. Let's make a motion to receive all the reports. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. All right. Turn this over to Mr. Krowitz.
Thank you. Great. So tonight for consideration is a development permit for 5845 Sunshine Coast Highway by RTC, known as the Strand. This property is located at the corner of Sunshine Coast Highway and Shorncliffe Avenue near the waterfront. It's designated as a mixed multifamily residential under the OCP, and therefore development permit area number 7, multiple family residential, does apply to multifamily developments on this site. It was rezoned for a site-specific comprehensive development zone in July of 2018, which allows for up to 20 multifamily units. A development variance permit was issued in August of 2020 to facilitate this current proposal being considered now, which is for 2 3-story residential buildings with a maximum height of 11.6 meters. And for consideration tonight is the following development permit that must be issued prior to a building permit being issued. So development permit area number 7, multiple family residential, has 4 main objectives. These objectives are met by adherence to guidelines that are listed within the development permit area found in the official community plan, mainly to create a variety of compact housing forms with a high standard of urban design and livability, designed for durability and an attractive appearance over time, to integrate new infill development with the surrounding neighborhood, to provide new housing forms which are affordable and appropriate to the needs of different groups of the population, and to control the design of new development and the provision of amenities. There's quite a number of guidelines in the development permit area, and each of them is categorized into the list presented here. Staff have reviewed all the guidelines and provided recommendations whether we believe they apply, to what degree they apply, and if the development has enough features to incorporate the guidelines sufficiently. Presented here are renderings of the project and artist rendering of what it is perceived to look like when complete, to give an indication of the form and character of the development. So this is a view from the highway towards the entrance off of Shorncliffe Avenue. And this is a view from down below on what would be not an accurate representation of the park, but certainly the buildings themselves. This would be from the beach looking up towards the development. And this is a closer in view of the east building, which would be directly adjacent to Shorncliffe Avenue and Snicket Park down below. This is just a clip of the site plans that were provided by the applicant, the architectural site plan on the left and the landscape plan on the right. Some of the revisions on this project included entrance being shared between both buildings. So originally there had been 2 entrances, one for each building, which was revised to lessen the number of driveways going onto Shorncliffe Avenue. The elevations provided indicate some of the finishing choices that the developer is proposing. And for the most part, these are representative of residential type finishes, including hardy shingle type finishes and lap siding, as well as natural stone veneer. This application was referred to the Advisory Planning Commission, and they considered this application at their July 6th meeting. And overall, they provided a recommendation for council to approve the application as presented. However, they did make some recommendations to the developer to encourage them to further consider guideline 83, which is adding wiring connections to accommodate full EV chargers for all units, and guideline 42, which is adding rough-in for solar collectors for future potential solar collection on the building. And further, they stressed that the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure continue to move towards addressing safety concerns regarding the Shorncliffe Avenue intersection. As I mentioned, staff have reviewed the application and consider that the application meets sufficient guidelines to consider issuance by council, and that council approved development permit subject to the registration of the draft plan to dedicate the expansion of Snicket Park as parkland. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments? Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Just a quick one, and actually the APC touched on it there with guideline 83. Consider providing electrical connections for electrical vehicles and scooters. Is the intent within that guideline to have developers just pre-conduit, or are we looking for pre-wiring, installing junction boxes so somebody could literally just drop in a charging station at some point in the future? Just wondering how onerous that requirement is.
It's only one guideline. It's the only guideline that speaks to EV charging, so there's not a lot of direction for the developer to follow on this. Adoption of that guideline could range from pre-wiring to installing the actual charging infrastructure itself. This developer has indicated that they are looking to incorporate actual charging, most of the time for home use, as far as within the inside parking would just be typical 110 plugs for overnight charging are generally sufficient. There would be visitor parking, visitor charging stations that would potentially be level 2 chargers available.
Okay, thank you.
So they're indicating that those are included?
That's their intention. That hasn't been secured or detailed in the current plans as provided. If council wanted to include that as a condition in the development permit, that would be up to council to require a level of adherence to that.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I guess I realize that oh, hello. Yeah, I guess that I'm just looking at this, and I guess these folks are the developer here is following all the guidelines put on by the district for Seashell, and I just find it very disappointing that the district has made this 20 units. Here's 3 acres in downtown Seashell. They should be putting 100 units on there. That's just my only comment, and it's a developer's choice. It's their property and they're doing a nice development. But anyways, that's just my comments. And I wish the developer well and whatever. So, but thank you for my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilor McLean?
Yeah, this one probably goes more towards our engineering department, but just looking later in our agenda, I see a mention of the Snicket Park infrastructure upgrades. So I'm just wondering what are the possibilities of integrating these two projects, given that currently there's parkland dedication without any improvements. So is there opportunity to tie these together better?
There would certainly be some opportunities. Also, currently, there has been a desire to create a clear delineation between private and public property. There are other development experiences that we have in the Saltgrass Park and the Ani development that provide examples on how to get that separation. As far as actual improvements within the park, that will ultimately be up to the district to implement.
All right. I'd like to ask about the Shorncliffe, the pedestrian crosswalk there. I did read somewhere in, I believe it's in this one, where it talks about Moti potentially moving that crosswalk a little away from where that actual intersection is. Do we know what the work is that's being done around that in conjunction with this development?
The exact details of that are being worked out through the servicing agreement, but we have preliminary designs from the Ministry of Transportation that would move that crosswalk further towards the mall side of the property to lessen the crossing distance. But it would be between Ocean Avenue and this present development. And the developer is currently is essentially volunteering to put in the conduits that are required for the signalization. And the ministry has indicated that they have funding available to construct and install those lights for pedestrian activation and crossing in that area.
That's amazing. That's very much needed. Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Council, what would you like to do with regards to recommendation number 2? Councillor Todd. Oh, and then Councillor Kuster.
I will move recommendation 2, that council approve development permit for 5845 Sunshine Coast Highway, the Strand, subject to registration of plan EPP 87137 to dedicate 0.214 hectares as parkland.
And that's been seconded. Councillor Kuster, questions, comments?
I was just going to move that recommendation, but I am happy to hear about the potential to move the crosswalk. It's something I hear about all the time, how dangerous that is. So that's really good news. And I was at the APC and they definitely supported this in general. So I'm glad to see this is finally moving forward. It seems like it's been a long process for this. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. So there's a recommendation on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you. Then one of the comments is around the wiring connections for EV chargers. Do we want to do something about that or not? Councillor Todd?
If their intention is to pre-wire to set up, level 1 charging capacity, it's only 120 volt plug in each stall, but that is generally sufficient, for overnight charging, things like that. I'm content, they are going to have a level 2 charger on site. The strata, as they move forward, they're going to have to figure out their own rules to allow their residents to use it, I think, but I'm content, at least, with the charging infrastructure being handled by the developer.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, let's move on to item 10.3. Thank you, Mr. Kobowitz.
Thank you.
10.3 is a proposal for Hackett Park from Sunshine Coast Pickleball Association. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Before you is a report regarding the proposal from the Sunshine Coast Pickleball Association. This would see 1 tennis court at Hackett Park converted to 4 pickleball courts, dedicated courts, I should say, leaving the remaining tennis court dedicated solely to tennis. Since we last met, we did have a survey that was posted at the courts and was up online. We did gather feedback from 236 court users altogether, 153 of those from Sechelt. So there was some non-residents that took part in the survey. Yeah, so basically you have my report. If the recommended court dimensions, I'll say, and layout information did come from the International Federation of Pickleball and is current as of January 21st. So if there's any questions regarding the report or the options recommendations, I would be happy to answer those at this point.
Thank you. Council, questions? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, just on the court width and the space around each one of them. I noticed one of the comments on the survey was seating, which I think would be very highly valuable. Is there a space for seating within the 2-court plan? And does that cut into the minimum, or how much are we playing with here?
So the actual recommended plan leaves 11 feet on both sides for the side alleys, leaving plenty of space for seating. So that was one of the factors that weighed into coming up with this recommendation. Unfortunately, behind the courts, we are kind of stuck with the existing back court space. We can't realign the courts going north-south, and unless we rip down the fence and make the whole courts wider, seating will remain kind of on the sides there, on the side alleys. But yes, in this recommended version, there is room for more seating, and that definitely played into this recommendation.
So the recommendation before us is for 2 pickleball courts, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions and comments? All right, Council, what would you like to do? The recommendation, Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'll just jump in with one more comment, just for council discussion. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with putting the onus to fundraise on the Pickleball Association. What I've seen, what I've observed is that there is a need for more dedicated pickleball courts. I've been keeping an eye on this court. I've been keeping an eye on Dougal tennis court down in Gibson's. And there's a lot of the time that pickleball players are playing on the tennis courts. So it's definitely needed. So is that something that should be coming from all taxpayers in the district of Sechelt, or should it just be coming from users? And if it is coming from users, what kind of delays might we see if they can't come up with the funds? So I just want to see if there's any thoughts on the divide between funding it through the general tax base or trying to go through a fundraising method, because I think the demand is there for this facility, and I'd like to see it open for everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I mean, either way, it would be open for everybody. You know, it is a public space. It is our land and our facility. I was struggling with that one too, Councillor McLean, because you know, the Pickleball Association is still working towards trying to build some sort of facility for themselves, indoor, hybrid, outdoor, whatever it may be. And you know, this is a general park improvement. You know, it's not like we're leasing this space to them or anything like that. So I do notice that option 3 in fact, is to include the expenses in 2022 budget deliberations. I'm leaning that way, but yeah, I'm interested to hear what others have to say too.
Okay, so first of all, we had approved in our budget $24,000 because we recognize that the facility needs to be resurfaced.
Correct.
And then it was once we'd actually approved that the Pickleball Association came forward and requested that instead of just resurfacing as is, that we convert that. And they actually offered to come up with the additional funds. They offered to go out to their members to see if they could raise the additional funds for that. And so I think that's why it came forward this way. They're recommending that they're recognizing that it is a change to what we were planning on doing. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to raise the funds. We haven't gone into budget deliberations yet. We don't have the money this year in our budget. If you were to go forward with this, we would still have to then wait for budget approval if we did 2022 budget, right? What would your timeline be otherwise for this project?
So it would ultimately depend on the contractor's availability, and getting it done, we need to get it done before freezing temperatures and inclement weather. So it's looking tight now for fall, which is why I really wanted to get this on tonight's agenda.
Mm-hmm.
But, that being said, the court is playable the way it is. If council decides to go this direction and push it forward to the 2022 budget, it would just mean that the work would be done in spring of next year.
Okay. Director Dillon, did you have any questions or comments for us?
No, Your Worship, I have no additional comments. I think the manager of parks have summed it up. Regardless of who pays for these pickleball courts, if they're fundraised or if the district pays for them, ultimately the asset management of that new facility would probably likely be borne by the district. So, that is also a contribution that we're providing to that facility in the future.
All right, what would the additional cost be? I see the cost for 4 would be 50 to 50,000. I don't see the 2 offhand.
Yeah, so by just taking the one contractor's estimate and extrapolating, I think we would be down to around 17,500 in additional funds to do the 2 pickleball court option.
In addition to the 24,000 we were looking at.
Correct.
Okay.
Approximately, that's one contractor's estimate. So,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I think this would be going out to
Out to tender.
yeah, out to tender.
All right, council, what would you like to do? Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I'd like to see us, put it on next year's budget and get the work done next year. But I'd also like to see the Pickleball Association, if they can bring some money to the table, that would be awesome. Yeah. Obviously, it's something needed, but
Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Yeah, if timing is tight to do the work, and if we're looking to ask the Pickleball Association to fundraise, which I do remember that offer, that's fair, but their proposal was for 4 courts. So is there the same appetite to fundraise for 2? That's a question, but I guess
I would agree, Councillor Toth, that was a comment that was brought up.
Yeah, and so timing could be an issue if we wait for fundraising. Like, you've only got what, 8 weeks before you got to start thinking about whether the weather is going to be good enough to do this work. So you've got, if we move forward with this tonight, can we put it out to tender while the association tries to do some fundraising? Or do we need them to fundraise first and then put it out to tender, just process wise?
That's a good question. I would defer to Director Dillon on that. I think we would probably need funds in place before we commit to going out to tender.
Whether it's us or them, right?
Exactly.
Director Dillon?
I would agree with that assessment, and I'm sure Director Douglas would also concur that you need earmarked funds before you can go out to tender for a project, or else it could put you in a situation where the bids elapse or they have to be revised because you haven't received approval in a timely way. A recent example comes to mind of the Hackett Park stage, which initially was cost estimated at a certain amount, and several months had elapsed until it was put out to RFP and the subsequent prices came back higher. So generally good practice to have a budget in place before you go out to tender. I think another part of the fundraising bit here is that I believe, and the manager of parks can add to this, is the survey identified that a lot of the users of the pickleball facilities are coming in from SCRD and further afield too. So this is a facility, but also one that's used by a lot of people on the Sunshine Coast as well. And if you look at other models of pickleball facilities that have been built, it's a multi-partner funding scheme. It could be a local association in concert with the district and the regional district, or a city or municipality. So there's ways to go about doing this. But we definitely want to have some kind of a budget in place.
Thank you, Councilor McLean.
Yeah, to Director Douglas, just on the timing again. I believe our parks manager said that construction could start in the fall. But if I'm understanding this right, we need either the funding or we need approval in the 2022 budget. I lose track of the years. We're still in 2021. So I think best case scenario is fall 2022 is what I'm hearing, no matter the funding model, because we don't have the room in the 2021 budget to make this happen.
Yeah, kind of correct. I think we're talking about the spring of 2022. If we're done budget by early January, generally, then we can pass some early capital and get going on some of the projects. So if this one becomes part of that, then it could be done in early spring.
Councilor McLean.
Yep. And then just as a follow-up, I think a critical part of fundraising is knowing that if you don't get the money, it won't be done. So I think if they're looking at fundraising and they want to come back to the District of Sechelt, this year we're looking to get our budgets finalized by the end of in December. So they need to know by then if they want to come back to us. Otherwise, we're looking at a full year's delay. So it's, where do we want to put this additional $17,500? And how quickly do we want to make this project happen? Because to see the fundraising happen by spring of 2022 is going to be difficult, but I don't know the capacity of the organization.
The other question that we haven't considered is 2 courts versus 4 courts. So the Pickleball Association requested 4. 4 does not allow for full regulation size. So there, it's been recommended that we put 2 because then they would be regulation size.
So I'll just quickly jump in. The courts themselves would be regulation size.
Okay.
It's the recommended side alley space and recommended shared alley space is not met within the SCPA's proposal. Normally, if you look at the International Pickleball Association, their recommendations are for 5-foot side alley space and for 10-foot shared alley space. So when you look at all those things, and then also tennis currently we've got 7 feet of side alley on one side and 8 on the other, which is not ideal. It's supposed to be 10 to 12 feet for tennis. So that's where we're at right now. We're trying to fit a lot into a small space. So, if you squeeze all that in, I mean, technically you can fit these courts within the space. You're just not getting the recommended space around the courts, which also factors into, say, requests like the seating. When you open the gate to come into the court, you're almost into the court when you walk through the gate. So those were some of the factors, the recommendations from Pickleball Canada and their court dimension layouts was what I've taken into account with this recommendation. But technically, you could squeeze 4 courts into that space. It's it's not ideal. It just depends how council feels and how they want to proceed.
Okay. All right, council, what would you like to do? There is a recommendation on the bottom page, or on page 117. Councilor McLean.
I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to go option 3. So that is that staff be directed to proceed with creating a single shared use tennis/pickleball court and 2 dedicated pickleball courts at Hacker Park, and that the expenses be included in the 2022 budget deliberation process.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded, all right. Anybody comments or questions? So if we do this, there's still an opportunity for the Pickleball Association to donate funds towards this, right? That, I mean, that's always available to the community, okay? Councillor Kuster.
Yeah, that was just my thought or comment. Like, I think in recommendation 2, that the pickleball can be raised by the Sunshine Coast Pickleball Association. I'd like to see some of that happen. I don't think it should be all on the taxpayers myself.
Okay, so the recommendation right now is that the expenses be included in the 2022 budget deliberation process. So it could be that we move this recommendation, but that we also pass another recommendation that we invite the Pickleball Association to solicit funds to help contribute to the cost. And that could come back to us during the budget deliberation. Councilor McLean.
I appreciate the mayor trying to seek a compromise. However, I think the idea of asking for funding when we say we will provide funding doesn't really mesh well. So we either ask or we provide. Kind of the middle ground is just doing fundraising. In my experience, you need a strong. If you don't do it, what happens? So
there's no guarantee that this will be approved in the 2022 budget, right? We're just saying at this point that it be included in the deliberation process. So that will come forward as a conversation at that point. I think what I'm saying and what Councillor Kuster is saying is there would probably be more support or identified support if the Pickleball Association were to step up and contribute some funds as well. All right, seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? Councillor Kuster, would you like that recorded?
No.
Okay, then I'd like to make another recommendation that the Sunshine Coast Pickleball Association be invited to solicit their members for funds to go towards the additional works to be done at Hackett Park on the pickleball court and tennis court facility. Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded. Any comments or questions? Councillor Toth.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we should include a deadline in that, just so we know when we're going into budget deliberations, you know, a deadline has passed, they've either raised that money or not.
Okay, I don't know what date to put in there. Dr. Douglas, what date should we indicate?
I think by like 1st of November would be a good date for them to have time, and it would work with our budget deliberations.
Okay, Councillor Toth.
So then I'm happy to move that as an amendment with on the end of there with a deadline of November 1st.
All right, seconder for the amendment, seconded. All those in favor of the amendment? Thank you. So we have an amended motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion on the floor? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
Moving on, Item 10.4, this is a Q2 2021 financial report. And this is from our finance manager of financial services, Ms. Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Share my screen, a better presentation.
And I think you just have to start the
Technical.
presentation.
I'm having technical difficulties. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I had it all figured out. Are you seeing?
There it is. We're seeing it. Yeah, and you're now on the second page.
Oh,
The purpose. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. So I wanted to present the second quarter 2021 operating financial report. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with an update on the District of Sechilt's financial activity for the period of January 1st to June 30th, 2021, and to compare that activity with the 2021 financial plan and the comparable period in 2020. Included in the financial reporting package is a quarterly budget variance report that compares actual revenues and expenditures for operating departments, and a capital project report that provides an update to the end of the second quarter of this year. At the end of the second quarter of 2021, operating revenues were at 83% and expenditures were at 45% of annual budgeted amounts. This compares to 97% and 64% respectively for 2020 of the same period. Though slightly behind, we expect to be complete the budget by year end, or be complete on budget by year end. The difference in revenue received when compared to the same period in 2020 is largely the timing of operational grant funding that we have not yet received this year. License, permit, and fee revenue is currently tracking well compared to 2020, and at the end of the second quarter, both planning fees and building permit fees have exceeded their annual budget. Expenditures are tracking favorably against the 21 budget. As at the end of the second quarter of 2021, the district has spent 45% of the operating budget expenditures. And the primary reason for the positive position is due to the second quarter RCMP contract expenses that are invoiced in July and paid in August. Salaries and benefits are also on track to finish at the end of the year. Salary and benefits expenses currently at 40% of the 2021 budget amount. Salary variance is primarily due to vacant positions, and further notes for the departmental expenses are provided on the quarterly budget variance, which is attachment 1 to this report. This table shows expenses compared to budget by government functions, and these results are similar to the 2020 numbers for the same period. And as mentioned, the capital variance report is included in this package, which is attachment number 2, and it provides an expenditure and status update for each project. Capital projects usually start after the annual budget is finalized. So in most cases, costs are not realized until the end of the year of the current year. The exception of this is any of the projects that were carried forward from last year, they would proceed without having to go through the end of the year budget process. The recommendation is that the report from me, the manager of financial services, regarding the District of Sechilt's second quarter financial report be received.
Any questions by council? Councillor Todd.
Thank you. Not a question so much as just a comment on the planning and community development revenues, where we're at compared to budget. And, it's obvious with how full out our planning staff are working, that it's, literally paying off for the district of Sechelt. I don't know if staff have any indication of what they expect the remainder of this year to look like, if that trend is continuing or accelerating, or shows any signs of slowing down.
Dr. Allen?
Well, thank you. Great question, Councillor Toth. I can't answer with absolute certainty, but I can say that we have a few more potential applications in the queue. So I will expect those numbers to continue to grow. Absolutely. I felt there may have been a period in the June time period when things were slowing down a little bit, but after a couple of weeks off, I can come back and I can see that some things are still pending, and we're anxious to take the next steps on a couple items, but the development applications and real estate market continue to be strong. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the report? All right. Appreciate you putting this. I know it takes a lot of time to put this together, and it's very clear. I think that's why you don't have a lot of questions. Very clear and concise and easy to follow. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, item 10.5. 10.5 was sent to us separately. This is a late item. So this is the Sechelt Airport Assignment of Agreement, Landlord Mortgage Consent for Redland Sunshine Coast Mountain Adventure Sale and Purchase. And Ms. Frank, over to you. Ms. Frank, you'll need to unmute yourself.
My apologies. You'd think I'd be an old hand at this by now. So to start over, thank you. The purpose of this report is to obtain council's authorization for the mayor and corporate officer to execute the assignment of agreement and a CIBC licensor waiver and consent document regarding the sale and purchase of Sechelt Airport Lot 15, which is a lease that the district has currently with Rudlands and is the subject of a purchase. So by way of background, as I say, the district has a license dated October 23rd, 2008, leasing Sechelt Airport Lot 15 to Rand and Bryce Rudland. Section 2.24 of that license agreement doesn't permit the license to be transferred or assigned without written authorization from the district of Sechelt. And I've quoted that actual section at the top of the page, of the second page of my report. The district received notice from Messrs. Rudlands that Lot 15 is going to be sold. They are selling their property to Sunshine Coast Mountain Adventures Ltd. with the closing date of July 15th. And I've attached a copy of the note that we received from the Rudlands on that. The attached assignment of agreement is therefore presented for council's consideration of approving. The second piece to this report is that this property is also going to be financed by way of mortgage with the Canadian Imperial, or sorry, this purchase is to be financed by way of a mortgage from Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce. And their legal department has requested that the district sign off consenting to this mortgage, again, because of that same section of the lease that says that the lease can't be assigned without the district's permission. So also attached to my report is that licensor waiver and consent agreement, which was prepared by the CIBC, and council is being asked to look at that too. And essentially, as I note, this is basically a housekeeping matter as part of a private sale. The district has no part in this purchase or sale, But as the landlord of this lease, we are required to sign off on the license being assigned to, and the mortgage being put on the lease. So again, as I note, there are no direct financial implications with this. And just a note that I didn't actually include in my report, but for general interest, the master lease, the main lease, is for a 30-year term and with an expiry date of December 31st, 2037. So it's not one of the template ones that council has previously considered. There's quite a few years left on that lease. And attached to my report, as I say, are each of those agreements that council is being asked to consider approving and having the mayor and corporate officer sign off on. And that's my report. I'd be pleased to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Lamb.
I'm just wondering, like, we're looking at a review of the airport lands and the uses now with the new air, you know, with our new, all the money we've spent up there. So I'm just wondering, is it appropriate to ask what Sunshine Coast Mountain Adventures does? Is it a mountain biking thing? Is it a backpacking sales situation, or is it something that's going to benefit the airport?
It's through you, your worship, it's appropriate to ask. Unfortunately, I myself have not done that research, and I'm not familiar with the group. As I say, since the sale really does not involve the District of Sechelt, staff have not researched that. I'm sure we could find that out and report back to council on that.
A couple of years ago, this company came to the SCRD. They do tours into the backcountry using helicopters.
I sort of have a bit of a knowledge of both of the people, the applicants here, may I call them applicants, and you know, they both run very strong businesses, and you know, I believe that they would be a good, you know, they work well in the District of Sechelt, let's put it that way. But you know, once again, we've just spent $4 million at the airport. It'd be nice to know that we're going to have a helicopter show up there, or we're going to have a retail, a backpacking retail thing store. So just a comment, I guess.
Okay.
I guess, your worship, if I may, just through you, just to clarify, you know, I do note that all of the remaining prescribed conditions in the lease continue to occur. This is simply just to transfer ownership, really. So, you know, the same requirements that we would have always had will be in that lease as well.
I have a question about the document, the waiver, the licensor waiver and consent, attachment 4. On page 2.1, I seem to read that what the bank is saying is that should the licensee not keep current, we would give the bank 60 days notice, and we give the bank permission to take over their position, to basically be the owners of the property.
Correct.
Okay. So that's in case of default.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this report? So there are some recommendations on page 1 of 10.5. Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'll give them a shot. Recommendation 2, that the assignment of agreement transferring ownership of Sechelt Airport Lot 15 from Rutland to Sunshine Coast Mountain Adventure Limited be approved, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the agreement. And recommendation 3, that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to sign the licensor waiver and consent between the District of Sechelt, Sunshine Coast Mountain Adventure Limited, and the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce per section 2.24 of the Sechelt Airport Lease Agreement between the District of Sechelt and Sunshine Coast Mountain Adventure.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for those recommendations? Seconded. Seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor? Thank you. Moving back to our agenda, item 10.6. Thank you, Ms. Frank. Item 10.6, this is council appointment. Oh, you're on for this one too. Council appointment to Municipal Insurance Association of BC. So we've been asked to appoint someone to be able to attend the Municipal Insurance Association of BC's annual general meeting in September. And we're looking for someone to take on that position. Is there any councillor that would like to attend on behalf of the District of Sechelt? Councillor Toth.
I'm not volunteering myself at all. I find insurance to be absolutely boring. So somebody else is welcome to take on that responsibility. I did have a quick question. I don't recall us doing this in years past. Is this something new, or have I just missed it from previous years?
When we got elected, we appointed somebody to the
Municipal Finance.
Yes, Municipal Finance Authority, when we should have appointed somebody to Municipal Insurance Association. And they just recognized that we didn't do that. So they're now asking us to do it. They'd like us to be there. I mean, if no one else is interested, it's at UBCM, right? It's just prior to UBCM. I'm willing to be the representation, or representative to that, unless somebody else is wanting to do that. Councillor McLean?
I support you, Mayor Seegers. I could be your alternate.
Okay, so a recommendation that I be appointed as the voting delegate at Municipal Insurance Association of BC, and that Councillor McLean be appointed alternate in my stead. There's seconded for the recommendation. Seconded. All those in favor, don't jump up and down. All right, approved. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Frank. Moving on, item 10.7. This is upgrading direct digital controls, the DDC, at the Justice Building and municipal offices. Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to update council on the direct digital control DDC project at both the Justice Building and municipal offices, and to have council authorize an increase to the budget for the upgrade project. Late in 2020, we received pricing. It was, it wasn't really estimates for updating the DDC project or the DDC systems here at Municipal Hall and the Justice Building. And so we carried those numbers through to the budget in 2021, and they were approved. And since then, we had the company come up and do a detailed review. And although the funds that we put aside for the municipal offices is enough, the Justice Institute, which is really, it's a more robust system, it needs a little bit more work than what was anticipated. This isn't necessarily a price increase due to the same amount of work being done. They've just come up and done, a more detailed and thorough review, and we would need an additional $30,000 to complete the work at the Justice Building. So staff are recommending that we proceed with that, and that the funds come from the Public Safety Reserve, which there is adequate funds there.
Thank you, Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I'm fully supportive of this project. Just one quick question: is this something that's been to tender? Does it have to go to tender still? Is it a sole source due to the nature of DDC systems?
It is a sole source due to the nature of it being the company that it's the software that's been used. We're using it at both sites, and they're going to be upgrading that and fixing other things with our system.
Yeah, thank you. I thought that was the case. These systems all tend to be very proprietary. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kuster. Okay, and you'll need to unmute.
A quick question. So when we originally had the budget approval, how did we get those numbers? Did we actually have someone come out and look, or was it just all very, like, it's what, almost doubled? So how does it go? Like, did someone look at it, or just...
Great question. Thank you. Through your worship. The second quote was more detailed. They did come up and spend more time here the second time and look at, the system as a whole. And so, it just, it's clear that the scope of work has changed by the detail that they provided in the second quote.
So the first quote was just an estimate. They didn't actually come.
Yeah, the first one was more of an estimate. So like when we try to carry things through the budget process, it's hard to get somebody to put the time in to give like a high level quote, because number one, the project probably won't happen for 6 months when you're doing quotes or getting prices just for budgeting purposes. So we're really aiming to get, really close estimates. But in this case, when they came back the second time, they just did a little more thorough review. It's quite a bit bigger system over there. So in the end, after talking to other staff here, it wasn't a real surprise, just because it is quite a bigger system there.
Councillor Kuster, any other questions? No, good, okay. So there is a recommendation on page 143. Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'll move recommendation 2 that council approve an additional $30,000 for the direct digital controls upgrade to the Justice Building to be funded from the Public Safety Reserve.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. And seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor? Thank you. I think they'll really appreciate that. I know even the little tinkering that they did at Municipal Hall has made it bearable through this heat, right? So they've gotten some things working in Municipal Hall that haven't been working for years. So I look forward to seeing what they actually do when they come up and actually make the system work like it should. That'll be great.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. All right. So moving on to item 10.8. 10.8. This is around the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant purchases. Mr. Douglas, over to you again.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to update Council on the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant for local governments and to seek Council's approval to spend up to $73,000 of the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant to modify the district offices a little further and to buy additional computer equipment. I'm just going to start off by going to the drawing that I've included into the agenda package. And what the office portion is the lime green color, or the green color, is taking those double workstations and making them singular to allow staff the comfort to come back and work within their own environment. And once again, they would be 4.5 feet high with a foot of glass on the top of them in that area. And so that's would be kind of project A. The purple and blue areas, those parts have been ordered with the previous motion that we've received from Council. And so we're making the kind of the 4-pod areas into single pods as well, so that people are a little more comfortable coming back into the environment. So although they're ordered, they haven't arrived yet. And then, of course, the workstations along the glass or the front side of the building, They have been ordered and installed, and so that part of the project has been completed. And all staff that have come back have been very excited that, you know, they're coming into single pods, and all the staff that work in these areas have been consulted, and they're very supportive of going to become more individual. This stations, it's more private. You can talk on your phone easier, and you're not, you know, the noise in the area is less. The second part of the project would be kind of plan B, to upgrade further the computer equipment that we started. As you know, when we went to the COVID, we pushed out a lot of computer equipment in a very fast order. Some of that computer equipment was ready for retirement, and we did replace some of it, but some of it stayed out there for a little longer, and it is now, some of them are starting to fail. Some more, these are mainly laptops. And so, so we've done another inventory of, you know, upgrading more equipment within our system to allow for the hybrid of working at home and working in the office. And so we're recommending we're recommending another $64,000 for computer equipment. Now this includes screens. We don't have enough monitors like for both home and here. Most stations here should have 2 monitors, and multiple stations only have 1 because the other one has been sent home to somebody. So we're still, you know, struggling a little bit with, you know, just trying to nail down the right amount of equipment. And I think with this, we will have it. It also really puts us ahead on our replacement program for down the road. And having the COVID money, it just makes a lot of sense to do that.
All right, council, any questions or comments? If there are no questions or comments, there is a recommendation on page 145. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I will move that council approve $73,000 to be spent from COVID-19 Safe Restart grant funds for the purchase of additional dividers and glass panels, computers, and equipment.
Seconder, seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, item 10.9, Engineering and Operations Division Capital Project Update. Mr. Dillon, did you want to speak to this first?
Yeah, Your Worship, this is a just an effort to be a little bit more proactive with our capital project updates, so that council's aware of what is happening out there on our main projects. It's not every capital project that's approved, but some of the bigger ones that are out there and disrupting traffic and whatnot that you hear about every day. So this is something I did at a previous jurisdiction, so it's going to be a recurring regular council meeting update. And the intent here is just to provide a high level update of where we're at. And if there's any questions, I'll try and answer them. If I can't answer them, I'll find out the information and try and include it on a subsequent project update.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Councilor McLean.
Perfect. Yeah, I love this report. I look forward to seeing it regularly. I think the community loves to know what's happening with these projects, and I can't count the number of times I've got questions about Trail Avenue and Wharf Avenue. People looking forward to that. Just not directly related to this, but looking at, anyways, my question is, have we hired the engineering project manager yet to take on more, so get some of these other projects moving?
We have not. We did screen for applicants, and we received several good applicants that appear qualified for the position. And so the next stage is for us to interview those applicants and select the best one that would be the successful candidate. There's I believe there's probably about 5 competitions that are all kind of converging at the same time. So we're just trying to manage all those interviews right now. But the intent is to have somebody in place soon. Then that would be a great thing for us to have in place, because then we can start moving on some of these other projects that have not received the attention they deserve.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb.
Just on the Wharf Avenue sidewalk improvement, I'm excited to see you've got this archaeological coordination thing underway. Hopefully that'll go smoothly this time with this project. Let's put it that way. Very good.
Yes, yeah. The intent is to do that part early, and I think that wasn't happening on previous projects. So we're adjusting, and the same is going to be done for other projects that we'll try and do it up front, because ideally, if you can identify archaeological issues up front, you might be able to design your project in a way that reduces the amount of disruption. So it's good to know up front when you're doing the design process to see what the archaeological nature is of any project site.
Yeah, that corner right there wouldn't be a very nice place to have a major disruption in. That's a pretty busy corner, pretty busy part of the community. Thank you.
So I have a question about the Wharf Avenue and the sidewalk improvement project. So Ministry of Transportation in their safety plan had indicated that within 5 years, they're looking at potentially making it 2 turning lanes. Have they actually been in touch with us and worked with us to ensure that the design that we're doing now will facilitate that change in traffic pattern when they're looking at implementation?
They have reviewed the designs. They have commented on them. We've included the revisions that they've asked for in our design. I can't speak for Modi on what they've factored into that review. Needless to say, they have reviewed it, but they don't generally share with us through which lenses they look at these projects when they review them.
Okay, thank you. All right, I look forward to seeing this report as well. I know when this came out on Friday, I believe, I actually got asked, when is the Trail Avenue reconstruction project going to be done? So I just looked at the report and I could tell them. So it was nice. Thank you. We appreciate it. No further questions or comments on that. We are moving on to council reports. Who wants to go last? Put it that way. Who's not ready? Who wants to go last? Okay, Councillor Toth, will have you go first. Councillor Kuster, McLean, and then Lamb.
Sure. I don't have much to report other than I did attend the airport runway celebration ribbon cutting ceremony. I haven't been up to that airport since I was in high school, and that was for drag racing. So it was great to get up there again. Got to take my first flight out of that airport and got a bit of a tour over Seashelt. I was in the same plane as the mayor. Yeah, it was great. When you take float plane trips, it's usually in and out. You know, there's no chance to really go over the community and see where things are in relation to other things. And you know, Google Maps is years and years and years out of date. So yeah, that's really all I have to report this time around. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kuster.
I don't have a lot to report either. I was at APC and just a short APC meeting, and just happy with the questions and the feedback and the level of detail that all the members had with respect to what was presented to them this last night. So that was really good. And I'm disappointed I missed the airport opening because I was away that weekend. I was actually looking forward to that. So I appreciated some of the videos that we got to watch, and I'll have to take a ride up there and see what's going on now. And I went away for the long weekend, and it's absolutely crazy. The interior, how bad it is with smoke and ash, and just a real eye opener for me. You see it on the screen, but until you're driving through it, it's pretty crazy. So I appreciate all the efforts that are like the firefighters are doing and the work that everyone's doing. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
Nothing to report, but I will add on to Councillor Kuster's comment, and I want to thank the Seashell Fire Department. They've sent up a truck and 4 of their team members to fight fires, I believe, near Kamloops.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, just I attended the airport opening, and it was pretty exciting to be there to see a whole bunch of different planes, different styles. Nice to see a bunch of people show up. It's nice to be part of that. So and look forward to the airport. Hopefully, we'll finally get some legs under that thing and make it contribute to our community more. And that's it for me for this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to mention that one of the conversations that I've started to engage in the community is around agriculture and sustainable food. So I had the opportunity, I think I mentioned, to attend with MP Weiler, the One Straw facility down in Roberts Creek. And so on my own, with my husband and a few friends, I attended the One Straw Supper to see how the community is coming together and who is actually supporting agriculture. And there's going to be more coming forward in that. One Straw has reached out, and to support some of their plans, they have recently applied for 3 different grants and will be applying for other grants to further food sustainability on the Sunshine Coast. So we should see some more information coming forward on that over the next while, and I applaud their efforts. That's all I have. This is our last meeting, so I want to thank council for all the time and effort you've put in over the last year and a half. It's been a real slog in some cases. I think we all need a break, and I look forward to staff getting away and having a break and coming back jazzed and ready to move forward with budget in September. So move over to Councillor Toth with the SCRD report.
Thank you. SCRD report is attached. Happy to take any questions. I guess the only thing of note really to mention there, other than of course the water, is we've got a special board meeting on August 16th at 9:30 to take care of a number of contract awards that needed to be in place before we resume in September. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I appreciate the stats about the number of employees at the SCRD, 550. That's crazy. I know a lot of it includes volunteer firefighters, which are kind of unique. But I'm wondering if you just have any more details on the 99 casual staff. That seems like a very high number. Is there a tendency to hire casual staff over full-time staff?
I don't believe I've got details handy, but primarily the casual staff is cashiers and front counter workers at the rec facilities and things of that nature.
And bus drivers.
The bus drivers, I think the lifeguards fall into that as well. I mean, I can get more details if you're interested. I think that was a new report for us,
Yes.
and HR is looking to extract more statistics out of the organization to present to us on a regular basis.
Thank you. Moving on, correspondence. Motion to receive the correspondence. Moved, seconded, all in favor. Thank you. And the first 2 were for information. The last one I requested be put on here for information or action. This is the grant application response on the Trail Bay Boulevard. So it basically tells us we were not successful. And given that this was a project that was on our list, what would we like to direct staff to do with this going forward? Do we want them to look at other funding options? Do we want them to wait until there's another grant available? Do we want them to put it on in budget deliberations coming forward for next year? Councillor Toth and Councillor McLean.
Thank you. I think it's a nice to have. I don't think it's a need to have. I mean, certainly there's a few potholes along the waterfront that need to be patched, but I think if we can't get grant funding for this particular project, I'm content to shelve it. I know there's a lot of angst on both sides of the equation on whether we proceed with this or not, or close it to cars or not. I'm up there fairly regularly myself. I don't really notice any issues with interactions between peoples and cars and things of that nature. So I'm perfectly content to shelve it unless a grant opportunity comes along, and maybe patch a few potholes out there and leave it.
Thank you, Councillor McLean.
Yeah, it's a little more than potholes. There's some just the surface of the pavement is in an incredibly poor state. So it does need some substantial improvements, more than just our pothole filling. So I think this is the kind of discussion that I'd like to have at budget. How far do we want to take the improvements? Is it simply a basic resurfacing of that road? Or is it the design that we had talked about, which really separates pedestrians from traffic, which I think has a lot of value? So personally, I'd like to see it put into our budget process. And then from there, we can decide what kind of scope we want for this project.
Okay, Director Dillon, did you want to speak to this?
No, Your Worship. The decision on the future of the project rests in council's hands. It is, though, a nice to have from engineering and operations perspective. We do have pressing asset management needs all throughout the district, and a lot of assets in requirement of repairs, and we are additionally making a lot of contributions to active transportation projects, with the past announcement of the 3.2 million and funding going to active transportation upgrades, as well as what's happening on Wharf. So we are doing a lot on that front. So whatever council's direction is, we are here to support.
Can you remind us what the cost of that upgrade was, approximately?
The Trail Bay one?
Yes.
Oh, I can't recall off the top of my head. I believe it was in the neighborhood of 400,000. But Director Douglas, if he recalls that, because I know the grant application went in before I joined the district, and he might remember that.
I'll look it up as we're continuing.
Okay. Well, I think we're at the end of our agenda, so.
But there's a piece around engagement that I think we would want to do before we move forward with the concept. And if anything, we had to put together a concept in short order because we were trying to chase a grant funding opportunity. And as often happens in those situations, we don't have the time to do the engagement required for these projects. So if we are going to go ahead and do something there, I think we have to do a robust job up front, engaging with all the stakeholders, because there's clearly competing interests there.
Okay, Director Douglas.
Yes, Your Worship. The amount that the application went in for was 600,000.
Okay. All right. So $600,000. And yes, there needs to be consultation and more of a design done for that so that we can ensure we have community support for that. So recommendation that staff, I guess the other question is, what's your workload like in, do we have the bandwidth to be able to do the public consultation that would be required for this project, given everything else we're going to be doing?
Your worship, I would say at the time we do not have the staff until we get the engineering project manager up and running. It would be difficult for us to manage that with the other workload. We have no shortage of projects that we have to advance in the engineering and operations division as it stands. And I would think this project also would have a strong archaeological component to it as well. And I'm not sure if that was factored in the initial budget for the project, which was 570,000, I believe is about the exact number, if I'm correct.
Okay, Councillor Toth.
Thank you. We've got, sewer issues. We've got roads that are in much worse shape, and I'm happy to take Councillor McLean for a drive and show him some of them. I know the community's been telling me about some of them, but at this time, I would be happy to make a motion that this project be shelved until another grant opportunity comes along.
Okay, is there a seconder for the recommendation? Seconded, all right. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor McLean, would you like that recorded? Thank you. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. I see a lot of value in this project. In our strategic plan, we talk about having a pedestrian first priority. And this is a great example of where we put cars first, but the number of people through that corridor, pedestrians outnumber it greatly. So we need to improve the design there. We need to make it friendly for pedestrians of all ages. I want to see, it is one of the greatest places for a little kid on his little push bike to just ride along. But I know so many parents who wouldn't be comfortable with doing that on the street. But if we can just pull that path off the street, we can make that safe for them, and they can go the full length of the whole boulevard, right from Friendship Park to Snicket Park. That has a lot of value to me. It's going to benefit a lot of people. So I would really like to see us do this. But I recognize that I'm in the minority here.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on emergency items. Do we have any emergency items to be dealt with?
There are none.
Thank you. I'd look for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you.